I think this really stems down to two things. Patience on the other side, how, Mumkin started and the journey of Mumkin, right? Whilst I was at university, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do.
Not a psychologist, that'll probably get me in trouble. Washing your beard, oiling it, combing it, something that can be done on a sink.
Welcome to the Mumkin Motivation podcast. Welcome to the Mumkin Motivation podcast. Mumkin in English means possible. My name is Rizwan. I'm the founder of the business Mumkin. This is where I sell premium products whilst also giving to charity. And today with me is the guest, and his name is Tayyib Nawaz.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. As already introduced, my name's Tayyib, and I'm the brand ambassador for Mumkin, and I'm here today, I guess, to explain a bit around, what we're doing and how I fit into Mumkin as a brand. So before we get into obviously what you're doing with the brand Mumkin, I just want to talk a bit about how, Mumkin started and the journey of Mumkin, right? 80-90% of my life was spent in the educational institution, right? So I went to college, went to universities, came out with a chemical engineering degree. Working with products, creating products, that's all I've ever done, right? Whilst I was at university, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And then after that, I'm sure you're already aware, which is like most people, when they go to university, they've got no idea what the course that they're going to study and, for what reason. So my brother actually, I was actually going to go into accounting and finance at DMU in Leicester. So that's the standard Asian thing.
It's the standard Asian thing, yeah. So I was in college, I got my grades, and it was in summer, literally, for the clearing, where you could still get into some universities, right? I went upstairs, my brother was there, he was just on his phone, and I said to him, Irfan, this is not what I want to do, and there's nothing wrong with accounting finance. You need accountant for every single business organization, right? But it wasn't something that I was interested in. So then my brother said, okay, what are you good at? And I said to him, I'm good at, chemistry, and I was good at maths. So he said, okay. He went on his phone, imagine, literally, he went on his phone and he found different courses, and he found chemical engineering. And he said, do chemical engineering. And as you can imagine, the way it sounds good, isn't it? It sounds technical.
Yeah.
It sounds like you could get a job in anything. And to be honest with you, you can get a job in anything, to a certain limit with chemical engineering because of the maths and the analytical skills that you can have, right?
Yeah, I remember a couple of my friends who did chemical engineering at University of Manchester, and they would have like these open days with KPMG because they were like really big on going for chem eng graduates because they're that good with numbers. So yeah, they're quite flexible when it comes to like career choices, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it would work perfectly, especially not knowing exactly what degree I want to do. So, but still, as normal, as a typical Asian person, right, with parents, go, get the university degree. So I did the chemical engineering. Found it really difficult actually, to get graduate jobs. You think you can just pick one up, do a very hard degree, still get to get a graduate job should be very easy. It's actually quite tough. And after a couple of months after I finished university, and it was up in Newcastle. So that's where I had my first sort of experience working in process engineering, where I was making, all sorts of products that the NHS are currently using at the moment. I spent a year in Newcastle, and I'm from Leicester. So what does that mean?
What is that? Is that what, a 3-4 hour drive?
It's a 3-hour drive, yeah. And whilst I was also working in Newcastle, Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was working in the hospital in Leicester. As you can imagine, on the Sunday, I'll be doing a 2 to 10 shift. At 10 o'clock, I'd be going at home, getting some food packages, then driving all the way to Newcastle. I'd get to Newcastle around 2-3 in the morning, and I'd start my morning meeting at 7:30, where I'll be explaining the KPIs of what happened on Friday's report, Saturday's report, and Sunday's report with the senior stakeholders. So it was a graft though.
That's stressing me out just listening to it.
Yeah. It was a proper graft, and I think by doing that very early on, I realized about just working insanely hard. I'm not saying definitely guys do that. No one should ever do that.
Yeah.
It's not optimum. It probably doesn't save you any money at all. But to actually build that sort of skill of being hardworking, it's one of the things that I'm very fortunate that I was able to do. Right. And then after I finished that graduate job, or well, just a year in, I realized that that wasn't for me. I liked working with people.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that, especially with engineering being a very technical subject, right?
Yeah.
You are a lot on your own, where you're hitting the reports and things like that more so.
Yeah. It's quite isolated, isn't it? Like where you're kind of doing your own thing, given your own devices, and then you've got to do what you need to do. It's not really people.
It's not people
orientated.
Exactly, exactly. And the fact that I like speaking to people,
Yeah.
it's tough. Doing a job that it's against your strengths, to
Yeah.
do that, it's very hard. So I left that, and I just literally just leveraged on my strengths, and I wanted to be back home close to family, right?
Yeah.
So I got a job as a production manager at a startup company. I did that for a year, and I wanted to change as fast as possible for the next job, So then I was working for one of the top 10 fastest growing e-com companies.
Wow.
And they had their manufacturing, they were outsourcing it in another country, and then they just wanted to in-house do it. So I got really good experience with the manufacturing, quality training, operators, coming it through and managing them, learning how to make these products. So that was a very, very, valuable sort of experience that I got. But by doing that, I think one of the main issues is, I'm sure you're already going to go into, with especially the charity aspect of things, right, is what was happening on the global level. You already know what's happening with Palestine, right?
Yeah. When it comes to the situation with some of the humanitarian disasters, it is a really sad situation for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, which is a long-term kind of oppression. It's been going on for over 70 years now. I myself, when it came to around 2012, when the Gaza attacks happened, I would have been around 17, I think, or around about 16 or 17, in college. That was my kind of first involvement in charity work, and I guess more awareness of human rights. You become a bit more mature, don't you, at the age of 16. It's not that I didn't know about Palestine or what was happening in Gaza before that, but I think when you reach that age of, you're out of school now, you have a bit more freedom, you learn more, you see more, you speak to more people, you interact more with more adult related kind of medias, like you listen to the news more, you see things more. And I think around that time, Facebook, Twitter were really kind of blowing up.
Yeah.
So you'd see so much more. And then right after that, I got the opportunity to fill up an aid truck for an organization called Al-Fatiha Global in Worcester. So they had a container which they were going to fill up. And that was myself and a couple of friends, and awesome experience. If anyone wants to get involved in charity work, don't just let it be donations.
Yeah.
There's so much more barakah when it comes to doing, when it comes to going and getting involved. It's an entirely different emotion.
Yeah.
A perfect example of that is if you give money to sponsor an orphan, it's an amazing, amazing act, right? But imagine now being in the situation where that orphan is with you. How much more of an impact would that have on you? Right?
It's huge, yeah.
So same way when it comes to charity work in general, I think that was my first, that year, that 6 to 7 weeks, Gaza, everything that happened was my kind of gateway into charity work. And I think it was for a lot of people in my generation. 2012, 2014, those 2 years were vital years when it came to inspiration.
And I think that's the thing, because you've started quite at a good age, I'd say. I think at the age of 16 you mentioned.
I'd say, I can't remember the exact dates, but it was 2012, so I would have been either 16 or just turning 17.
Yeah, so being at that age, that's really good, because whilst I was working that job, and with what's happening right now on the global scale, right, with all the conflicts, it's right now, it's being pushed on media, right, so much. And whilst going to work, back and forth. Lunchtime, you're opening up your phones, you're seeing, these people here, they're passing away, the hard stuff, it's hardship, isn't it? Where they need to have a lot of patience in another place where on our side, we need to be grateful for everything that we have. So for me to really be as grateful as I can be, I was thinking thinking selflessly just about myself, going day to day to a job and coming back home and not making that impact. I was like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And because being really business oriented, right, I always wanted to do my own business. So I think the eagerness to do a business whilst also trying to make that global impact, combination of both of them led me to really just, stopping the full-time job, but at the same time, going full-time into entrepreneurship. However, it wasn't a case where I just stopped immediately, right? And that's for anyone that, wants to, has a full-time job, they want to go into business or entrepreneurship, right? You need to really this is where the hard work comes in, where you've got that side hustle. You're trying to make sure that you put time into it, energy into it. After your 8 hours, there's the morning or there's the evening where you've got that time. And that's where you can really grow that side hustle, where it can become something. And so that's what led to creating Mumkin. So again, premium products with 20% of profits going to charity.
SubhanAllah. And a very close charity to my heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Global Relief Trust, which is how we kind of got in touch on TikTok. Do you want to talk a bit about it?
Yeah, of course. With being on social media, actually, my handle was Riz Ghost. So I was never ever actually on social media before the business.
Your handle described it very well.
Yeah, exactly. I was never on it. So I deleted it actually for so many years before I was back on social media. When I went back on social media, just for the business itself, to push out content for the business, I think it was a case where I had a product out or something, but then I put GRT in there, and you commented on there. But your handle was Bearded Broski, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So what did I say after that when I saw your message?
I just saw a message request on TikTok, and for me, my TikTok is the smaller of my kind of accounts, and it's like, who's this? Like, what's going on here? I don't really get any message requests unless it's like one of those spams telling you to like a certain page to get 1,000 followers and stuff like that. So I was like, what's this? And I opened it and it was yourself. And you're like, oh, do you want to work together? I'm really impressed by your handle.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got a beard.
Yeah, honestly, I wanted you to do a full grooming routine. And having your handle as Bearded Broski, I thought there's no chance that you're going to say no. and it is quite interesting because you'll meet so many people that on social media, you'll only know them by their handle or their name, and they've actually got so much more behind them, but it's very tough to see that, right? Of course, I don't think you showcase that to my defense, but again, you are a psychologist, isn't it?
Not a psychologist, but that'll probably get me in trouble. So, I mean, I've not claimed it, but a lot of people get confused. So I studied psychology at university as an undergraduate. After that, what I did is I've kind of started building up experience because you need a lot of it when it comes to working in mental health. Unfortunately, a degree in psychology on its own doesn't get you a job nowadays, much like many degrees, really. So after that, I worked in an urgent mental health crisis team after that. And then that's where I built up my experience, like working night shifts 4 days a week for just under 2 years. And then after that, I got myself into a low intensity CBT practitioner role. So what that basically entails is working with people who are struggling with low mood and various anxiety disorders. And I remember when you kind of mentioned, would you like to work together? And I was like, yeah, of course. But how about this? I want mental health to be more spoken about in the Muslim community. You've got the platform, and I can do the kind of talking about it. I think we're at that stage in the Muslim community now where we're more open about mental health, but there's now that vacuum where knowledge needs to go in now and people need to understand it more.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because I think it's very linear, isn't it? Having a product, and it's very one-to-one. Where if for nowadays a lot of the UGC content, so the user-generated content, right,
Yeah.
is you'll have a product, you'll do a review on it, right?
Yeah.
And it'll just be a case you'll use it and you'll be like, yeah, it works very well, I recommend it. However, in your case, it wasn't linear at all in that sense. It was
No.
more. There's this product, yes, it's very high quality, right? But you said you'll only work with it actually if you like it. Yeah.
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 Ah,
So yeah,
yeah.
let's definitely put that in there.
That I'm not one of those people who wants to,
Push out anything, really.
push out anything, and then someone turn around and say to me, "This is absolute junk." Like, why are you promoting this and stuff?
Of course.
So yeah, I was like, yeah, especially when it comes to beard. Like, I come from a family where 3 generations now have had beards.
Right,
So my
yeah.
granddad, my dad,
course, yeah.
and me,
Yeah, amazing.
alhamdulillah, all have had beards. Never. I don't know about my granddad, but my dad and myself have never shaved our beard ever, not once.
Yeah.
Trim, yeah,
Of course,
sure,
trim, yeah.
but
That's-
never shaved. So when it comes to our beard, it's our pride.
Yeah.
So when it
that's
comes to what we
amazing.
use on that,
Yeah.
even more so.
And I think that is the issue currently right now people are facing within
Yeah.
the grooming industry, right? Which is you've got a beard, and why not take care of it? Why not make it look good? Why not groom it, right?
Yeah.
And I've worked in places where I'm wearing something like a beard snood,
Yeah.
where it's really messing up the beard,
Yeah.
making it really curly. And to change that, it's very difficult. So then at home, I've got a curly beard now, right? I was thinking I want to create something which will be a solution towards that.
Yeah.
So of course, I've got the Ottoman grooming kit, which has the beard wash, the beard oil, the beard balm, and the beard comb.
Yeah.
Using all of that for people like yourself and like me will make sure that in the morning if you're using it, you'll
Yeah.
have that beard which is nice and straight, right? However, well, you said something completely different though. You
Yeah.
actually said that that's good.
Yeah.
However, what did you say then?
See, off camera, we were talking about how, I've got dyslexia, and people who are typically dyslexic like to think outside the box. And I was like, if everything is like the same, then what stands out with, what's the USP here? I know you mentioned, one of the core principles was inspiring people, motivating people to do better. The name of the podcast is, motivation. One of the words in the name of the podcast is motivation. Mumkin itself means possible. And coming from a mental health perspective, I was like, why not advertise it in a way where we can talk about how it impacts people who might be struggling with low mood, symptoms of depression. One of the first kind of signs, or one of the major signs is that people kind of withdraw from their day-to-day life. So things like showering, things like personal hygiene in general, combing themselves, dressing well, cooking, eating, just generally, they start withdrawing from those kind of activities. And what then tends to happen is that your body's not feeling that sense of like dopamine release, which is the happy hormone. When you're doing things, when you're dressing up, when you're completing certain tasks, like just basic stuff, like we would take it for granted, right? But, brushing your hair, putting new clothes on, cleaning the room, stuff like this, it helps us feel that sense of like achievement, accomplishment, which then helps us feel better. That's one of the first things that goes straight out of the window when people are struggling with low mood. They're not doing those things, not taking care of themselves. And I think a perfect way to help get out of that rut is to start doing those things so that then we get that kind of sense of achievement of, hey, we got out of bed today, we did something. And looking better is probably an easier way than say something more difficult, like today we're gonna, clean the house. Washing your beard, oiling it, combing it is something that can be done on a sink. It's so simple, so easy, right? And it kind of aligns well with the core principles as well. We want to inspire people to be better, to do better. And yeah, I thought it would be better to talk about it from that aspect, coming from my kind of experience with mental health.
Yeah, no, honestly, I really did appreciate, bringing that entire other side towards our grooming products itself. With the trajectory of where the brand is going, yes, we've got solutions for both people with beards, such as
Yeah.
ourselves with the Ottoman Grooming Collection.
Yeah.
However, we've also got solutions for people that are trying to grow their beards. And they've got patchy beards, they've
Yeah.
got issues with their beards, weak hair follicles, and they need good natural oils in their skin, in their hair, to make sure that you can get it as strong as possible and to allow it to grow, right?
Yeah.
So what we've got is the beard growth serum. So again, so don't think anyone that doesn't have a full beard, like, what's the point? I'm not going to use this. My beard's really
Yeah.
small. But you're trying to grow a beard. We're going to make sure that we've got you covered, and we do have the Rising Sultan's beard growth serum. Okay. So that's a bit about our beard, our grooming products, right, with Mumkin. We've also got perfumes on the other side, right? And we've got perfume oils and perfume sprays. Being relatively very young with the brand itself, we want to now get into more products that, create good value to the consumers. Again, with what you're saying here, it'll increase your personal hygiene, right? So
Yeah.
again, it'll increase your mood. It'll improve your mood.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got this. And plus, the first thing that you look at someone is, their face. And if their beard's not good, straight away someone will notice that, right?
Yeah.
People say that, if you're not in shape, how could you manage this? How could you manage that? Because the first thing is you're going to be managing your body yourself, right? So again, just stay tuned if you, check on the website. But hopefully in the next few months, we are going to be rolling out products which are going to be hopefully improving skin, which is right now, I think, and a lot of it will be tailored towards men. But again, we've got products also for women, such as our hair oil. So we've got argan oil, we've got black seed oil, and we've got also pomegranate seed oil. So again, all different types of health hair oils that if they've got damaged hair, they want to moisturize, they want to hydrate it. We make sure we've got that covered.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of range really that's coming out. I mean, for me, almost it was, you kind of introduced me to the Ottoman grooming set, and for me, it was like straight away, like that's it for me, because I was looking at other brands when it comes to like beard care, but like you say, beard care is out there now. You can find stuff in pretty much any market, but what's their kind of values? What are they doing with the money? Where's that money going to? And a lot of companies kind of are very almost secretive about that. We've come across so many brands, in the past that we used to use, and they've got horrific records when it comes to looking at what they do behind the scenes, right? But, seeing the Mumkin shirt for the first time, you can see straight away, if you look to the side, he's got a Palestine badge right there, no Stone Island, just Palestine straight up. Where his loyalty lies, right? As a brand, what they're about. As a community, the beard is sunnah, right? So as a community, we should be supporting these kinds of businesses, these kinds of organizations, to grow them in order for them to have a bigger platform to then make more positive impact elsewhere in the world.
A lot of companies and organizations, right? We want to make sure that we're motivating them. There might be a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, or people that are inspiring to start a business, but to do it the right way. The best business that you can get is if you've got a business where, let's say a percentage of it, it's yours, but then the other percentage is going to charity, right? Or betterness, if you can give the whole thing to charity, right? But again, to make a business grow, and again, people have families, people have things like this, right? Where you at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're making that impact, but transparency is super important. So again, we started off with the first project where we were raising to raise some money in Gaza. So we were with GRT Global Relief Trust, and we were doing bread distribution. And I'll be honest with you, unlike yourself, this was, I'm very new in the charity game itself. Being in education, I was just doing that, and then I was in working my jobs, and it was very selfish to a certain degree, where you just think about yourself, right? And but then doing these projects, it makes you really think that there's so many people around the world, and I want to make that difference. So then after that, what did I do? And then after that, the second project now that I'm working on is trying to raise £1,000 to build a well in Pakistan. My background, I'm from India, right? So of course I was born in the UK, but my background, if you go back, is from India. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, us as a community, we just need to make sure that we're making an impact on a global level, on a global scale.
Yeah.
In every single country possible,
Yeah.
and including the country that we're in, which is the UK, right?
Yeah. You know, a lot of the brands, like, you know, beard care is out there now.
Yeah.
You know, you can go Boots, you'll find stuff. You Superdrug, you'll find stuff. Online, you'll find stuff. When I was growing my beard out, it wasn't the same. You know, beards were like newly in trend. David Beckham had started wearing it, and suddenly that's when it became a trend. Before that, if anyone had a beard, they'd look at you weird.
Yeah.
Before like 2012,
Yeah,
2013.
it just wasn't normal, was it?
Yeah, it just wasn't normal. But yeah, like when you'd go into those kind of supermarkets and just buy, you know, your mainstream like beard brands, who are they? Like, where are they based? Like, what are they doing with their money? Who's investing in those businesses? What are they investing in? You know, you hear some horror stories when it comes to, you know, organizations. Like, you know, it'll be like a hair care product, it'll be like a skincare product, and they're investing in arms and like weapons of like mass destruction in like some next country on the other side of the world. What we need to do is support those businesses that are ethical, who practice what they preach, and it's not just a gimmick for corporate marketing. They're actually decent people, and that's Mumkin. We need to support organizations and businesses like that who want to make an impact in the world, and they're not just saying it for a tagline, they're actually showing it in photos, in videos, in the work that they do.
You know, trying to build a brand and trying to make that impact, but you know, trying to make that global impact is it is tough, because you want to make sure that you can, you know, you want to, you know, every individual country is suffering. There is things happening. You know, I had a message on TikTok, right? And one of the comments on one of the videos, it was basically me saying that, oh, I'm raising £1,000 to build a well in Pakistan.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, but what about the elderly people in the UK? And you know, which is, to be fair, it's a fair comment. You know,
it is
a fair comment. I think what the issue is right now, you'll see people doing good stuff on social media. They'll be donating to money and giving that to charity, right? And they'll be giving it to this country or to that country, but it's completely unfair to say that you know, you're giving it to this country, but why are you not also you know, taking care of this people here, right?
Yeah.
I think in general, if as a business, if I'm able to motivate as many people as possible to give in charity, the roll-on effect that would have is many people that are working jobs or doing any sort of business will donate a portion of that percentage of that profits, hopefully, to, you know, charity.
When it came to my experience with GRT, started with very humble beginnings, actually. I remember coming in and they literally hadn't put the aircon up yet, and we were sharing like USB cables around when someone had to print something. You'd be like, Shreed Bhai, can you pass me the USB cable? Because we didn't even have a wireless printer at that stage. It was just your bog standard printers. So to see it from that level, where, you know, nobody really knew about it outside of the kind of close-knit circle that the charity founders had, to now it being like a charity working on international kind of standards, where recently they had a project with the government of Pakistan where they had come to an agreement to bring over 140 students from who were displaced medical students from Gaza to finish their studies off in Pakistan.
Amazing, yeah.
And that was mind-blowing. Like, this is a charity that you know, I saw from a very small office just up the road from here on Aston Road to now making deals and working in collaborations with governments. You know, there's so much barakah in there, and they're amazing brothers. A lot of the time people ask, you know, when fundraisers like leave the charity that they used to work for, they typically don't like associate with them because it might have been like a bitter kind of leave or stuff like that. But I'm like, I've seen GRT's processes from start to finish, you know. I've been on the ground, I've seen their staff on the ground, multiple deployments. I've been to the Turkey-Syria border. I've seen work in Bangladesh, in the Rohingya refugee camps. I've seen recently in Ramadan, last Ramadan actually, how time flies, right? In Ramadan, March, went to Yemen, amazing experience,
How was that?
subhanallah. You go into Yemen and I would describe it as the closest thing that people who have grown up in the Western world, I would describe it to is like, you know, those series or those movies that you watch where it's like a post-apocalyptic world,
Yeah.
where each region has its own kind of government, own rules, own leaders. That's what Yemen was like. You would leave one city and then another like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, there'd be another checkpoint on the road, another checkpoint on the road. Imagine you're on Google Maps and it's telling you the journey's 2.5 hours long and it takes you 7 hours to get there.
And what was the impact that you made there?
We went there and we visited a number of projects. We were trying to raise awareness for those projects whilst we're on the ground making footage, media, covering projects. So we went to a malnutrition clinic to look at the kind of children that we were supporting there. So that typically involves a 6-month plan of treatment, I believe, where you're supporting a child who's severely malnourished to then come back to a fit and healthy kind of stage where they're able to be discharged from the service. That was like one of the first things that we saw, and that was really emotional. Like about over 15, 16 months old, and even to this day, it's really emotional talking about it. As an uncle of 13, I've seen a lot of babies in my house, mashallah, but £6 at the age of 18 months, 15 months, and they weighed £6, £7, £8,
Nothing,
£9.
isn't it?
And you just sit there like holding the child and you're like, I've seen newborns heavier than this. And there's like bones poking out, there's elbows going that way, knees going that way. When you see that, you can't just come back and feel normal, you know? When you see things like that. As a man, it makes you think like, what are you doing for? What are you doing for humanity? What is going on in the world? What are we complaining about? Like all of our problems. When I was holding one of those kids, all those problems just became secondary.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, how am I going to afford to pay my bill? Like, what is that in comparison?
Yeah, and I think this really stems down to two things.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah.
And on the other side, being grateful.
Yeah.
So there's one side of the world which they're going through these hardships. They might not have hospitals. They might not have schools. Just basic essential needs that we take granted for, right? And they're lacking these things.
Yeah.
So imagine just doing bread distribution. They don't have bread. Like imagine we're doing bread distribution, something so simple.
Yeah.
And that's a full meal for someone.
Yeah.
So it's it's these people that we would say that they're getting tested, and what can they do? Be patient and hope that there's going to be help that's going to be coming, right? And on the other side, there's people like, where, we're living in countries where it's developed, where we've got the essential needs. We've got even more than that, right?
Yeah.
So how do we then go about, being as grateful as possible by really understanding what's going on the other side?
Yeah.
I think you're very fortunate that you're able to get this experience. And I think that's why it's super important that people go on deployment, whichever country it is, but anywhere where it's a bit underdeveloped, where kids are struggling, the brothers and sisters there are struggling, just so we can get that real insight. Majority of people nowadays, right, giving money, but they don't really see that impact.
Yeah. They see the financial impact. Like they know that it's a sacrifice they're making, which is amazing. That is really, really important. In order for us to do the work that we do as volunteers for charities, to go out there and do the things that we do, requires that kind of financial sacrifice, but ultimately you need to feel that for yourself in order to truly understand the impact of what your money is able to do. When you go there, you know, one side is negative, but then you see the people and you can learn so much from them. When you go on, like, I remember when I went on my first deployment to Turkey, Syria, I was like, you know what, I was, you know, fresh out of uni, young, energetic, lots of energy. Like, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna make a change, right? But you quickly realize on the flight back home, you went there thinking you're gonna make a change, but really they've made a change on you.
Yeah.
Because you see so many people who are in those situations. There's so much like positivity in them. There's so much that resilience that they've built. And as someone, you know, who's really interested in psychology, it's really fascinating to see the people who are struggling are usually the ones which are the most positive.
Yeah, of course.
So even in Yemen as well, I found that. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says that, you know, Iman is in Yemen. You really see it. Like, it's an amazing culture. Like, when it comes to like Quran, right? They like your random, like, you know, Tom, Dick and Harry will have like 10, 15 juz memorized. Like, when we went to work in Yemen, like our cameraman like was reciting, like our project manager was like reciting Quran. And you wouldn't think, you know, in the UK, when you think practicing Muslim or Hafiz or Alim, you think somebody typically who's got like a long beard, bugri, and, you know, that's your picture, innit, when you think of it. But those guys are just standard guys. Like, no, you couldn't tell from the surface that these guys have got anything in them. But every person is like that there. Like, their levels are up there. Like, honestly, despite all the struggles that they go through, their iman is there. They're always smiling. They're so, like, they've got these bubbly, warm, loving personalities, right? Even though you couldn't understand what they were talking about most of the time, you'd have to speak through a third person. There was like this kind of love, that brotherhood that you get when you're there, and it's immense. Like, you know, going on your point, like, definitely go out there if you have the chance to in your lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. And we do live in a very connected world. So, you know, especially with Mumkin, we've got our products. Yeah, it's a gift, but you're also giving a gift to someone else, maybe in another country or maybe in the same country. On top of that, you're also again, yeah, you've got the project side of things, right? But the main thing is, it's hopefully the motivation that you'll be getting. You know, when I'm on social media, you'll see a lot of customer reviews and things like that. However, for you guys to really engage or to build that connection with the brand itself, it's impossible, you know, and Mumkin is possible, right? So I think, you know, having a brand with a podcast, so, you know, Mumkin Motivation, hopefully whilst you're watching this, it's not a waste of time. You might be commuting back and forth from work, right? Definitely don't just sit there at home just trying to watch this. I would definitely not recommend that. I would recommend, you know, if you've got audio, that's fine. You know, hopefully this will be on Spotify very soon.
Okay.
But the main thing is having some audio, right? Just so you're able to listen in and tune in. Even whilst you're cooking, whatever the case is, but inspiring you. And that's the bottom line is, I want you guys to be motivated, to be inspired to hopefully also do something similar, right? It could be a job, but you're also going to start hopefully giving in charity, being involved, volunteering, whatever the case is, doing impactful work. That's it. So we've got obviously our brand ambassador here. He's not just here, hopefully be making more appearances throughout, you know, the podcast series. But one thing that I want to get from each individual guest is something that one sentence or whatever that you could give to the viewers that would motivate them, that would inspire them, that's inspired you.
Got it. Well, my quote is actually going to come from my personal trainer, actually. It was one of those all-timer quotes that he dropped. Just a bit of background, I used to hate gym, right? Football was my thing. And recently, because of a number of injuries, I got into the gym and in order to rehabilitate those injuries. Now, the last week I've been off, which is why we couldn't do this podcast earlier, because I was down with the cold and had like a load of like, you know, literally a whole box of tissues has gone down the drain every day, and I was really ill. I came back to the gym and I was off it. Like all my energy, it felt like as if I just started gym all over again. I don't know if you've ever been through that.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? But you just feel all of that energy is being sapped. And I just felt gutted. I was like, you know what? It's demoralizing to see the same things that I was doing easily 2-3 weeks ago are now like a struggle. And he said something that really hit me. And I think you could generalize that to pretty much day-to-day life. Train for where you are today, not for where you will be tomorrow, and not for where you will be where you were yesterday. And I'll leave it at that, because you can only deal with the cards you're dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And it's actually reminded me of another quote, which is similar to that actually.
Yeah.
Is, people saying that I've got this business, it's in my head, but I haven't actioned it, right? And the best day to start now is today.
Yeah.
And that's it. If you've got any ideas, anything like that, just start it. Again, that's episode 1. Again, thank you, Tayyib Nawaz. Honestly, I appreciate it, man.
You're
for
welcome,
coming
bro.
through on the podcast itself. Hope you guys learned something, motivated, inspired. You can catch us on social media. Our handle for Instagram and for TikTok and Facebook, everything is mumkin.store. Our website is also called that. You can find all our products, everything like that on there. But also we've got our fundraising page, so definitely give that a shout. Some of these clips, some motivational stuff, but also some of the projects that he's also working on. I know he's also been fundraising for a community, for I think it was a madrasa, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that was a project for the minibus, which alhamdulillah we managed to fundraise successfully. But generically, I fundraise for GRT. So there is that link.
So again, he'll be fundraising for GRT, and again, he's the brand ambassador. So definitely check out his handles. Hopefully, you'll find out a lot of information and a lot of psychology information also to hopefully help you if you've got low mood and things like that. And the next few episodes that we've got really exciting guests on there. Again, it's going to be charity themed. It's going to be motivational themed. So if you want to feel inspired, this is the podcast for it. So it's been a pleasure. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.